take on a remarkable predictability of what people want to talk about.
Yeah.
And if you let your mind go into that groove that you just keep talking about, those same things over and over and over for 20 years, you would surely go quite batty. So it's that you wrench your own sanity from that, and I want to talk about something else. Let's talk about Nicaragua. You know, I read the newspapers too. Ben reads the newspapers. Let's talk about Nicaragua, not talk about was that real flesh or were those hot dogs. I don't even care at this point in time. I really don't care. I never cared. I don't give a shit what that was. But you can't say that to people.
No,
they think you're putting them off. Were those real? Oh, I don't know. And I don't care. I never cared. But I can't believe that you don't care. I've always thought also that the years that one of the fine things in that movie that people rarely discuss, to me, is the editing. How slickly edited it is. That's as much due to the attributable to the success of that movie as anything. And those fellows had been making commercials in Pittsburgh for several years, and some of the best editing in the world goes on.
Tell a story in 30 seconds or 60.
And so there was that cleanliness and very sharp editorial eye that went into it. The thing is, it is interesting because they internally in the film itself captured somehow an independent aura, and maybe even it has some aspects of amateurism to it. But if you really look at it technically, it's most professionally done. And the thing that used to bother me the most was that New York and Los Angeles and interviewers from all over the country just assumed that we were a bunch of amateur actors, and that's not quite true.
That wasn't true.
Well, it was an interesting amalgam and mix of amateur and professional actors, which was even more clever on George's part, and no one has ever actually sat down and analyzed. I mean, some of those people were still workers from Pittsburgh, some of those people were working on crew, some of those people were people from Pittsburgh. But others of them were actors from Pittsburgh. I was in New York. I came back to Pittsburgh. I was an actor in New York when that film was made. I remember it as great fun. We worked very hard. There was a wonderful feeling of camaraderie and good humor and goodwill. They were very considerate people to work for. You never felt that you were being abused or misused. They used to have to drive me back to my parents' home, all the way back out to Duquesne every night. Jack Russo usually. He never did that begrudgingly. Of course, Jack had to drive that way to get home anyhow.
Yeah. Clarity.
Like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning that Jack didn't need to detour through Duquesne to get to Clareton, but he never made me feel like I was a burden to do that. They were wonderful folks to work for. They really were. I don't remember, I guess because everything was so pleasant, that one of the things that sticks out in my mind is a moment that was mildly and strangely unpleasant. There was a point where the crew and George were planning a shot and setting up, and it was getting to be late afternoon, evening, and this magnificent butterfly wandered in to the house. And I remember clearly that it landed on the far wall, and to a person, every single one of us stopped what we were doing, and we were just standing around admiring this beautiful, beautiful creature that had just sort of come in among us as a spirit, you know, and it just sort of attached itself on the wall. And soon it was time to get started, and someone thought that his idea of a joke would be to come and smash
No.
the butterfly. And I remember everyone almost, the stunned silence of the group and this visceral reaction of wanting to regurgitate was just so real that moment sticks out in my mind as just, it was a bizarre moment. I mean, it was, but it was out of sync with everything. Nobody could believe that he had done that to us and to this butterfly.
Yeah.
And I don't think we ever quite convinced him that it was
Serious.
it was a serious thing.
It was just
It was a horrible thing to do. That sticks out in my mind. The only other person that I knew was Betty. Betty used to remember that all the time. She's talking about it all the time. Do you remember the day he smashed the butterfly? And of course I really did. We were just in awe. It was actually maybe not a butterfly. It was a huge moth. Have you ever seen a
yeah.
wonderful
the big ones,
moth? This magnificent thing just fluttered in and sort of just stopped on the wall for all of us to admire. And that smashed it. That sticks out in my mind.